Watch that spider.
That's not funny.
It was funny.
What up, Creepsters, and happy Friday the 13th. Happy Halloween. So to start this thing off, I sculpted my prosthetic out of clay and then poured plaster over it to make a mold in which I could then pour my liquid latex into, allowing me to get this grotesque thing you see in front of your very eyeballs. I will eventually be making a video showing in detail how to achieve that step, which is why I'm not going to show you now. But the first thing you're going to want to do is to remove any unwanted edges, to remove your nose holes, and to cut a slit into your mouth if you want to be able to eat and drink. Then you're just going to want to pull up your reference photos and choose one that best fits your color scheme that you want to go by. For your foundation color, you're going to want to mix together what is known as a PAX paint, which is 50% Pros-aide and 50% acrylic paint. For this particular prosthetic, I chose to use my Encore SFX foundation in a shade that best matches my skin tone, for easier blending later on. I recommend using a disposable brush to apply this with because Pros-aide is an adhesive and it will ruin your brush. Feel free to use Q-tips to get into those fine lines and crevices. Okay, so while we are waiting for our PAX paint to dry and become tacky, let's focus on the mask. I bought a white hockey mask from Hot Topic and burned around the edges with a lighter to get a custom fit and to achieve a charred effect. I then painted the red marks with an acrylic paint, and then with a super saturated brush I used alcohol activated paints to do light washes to achieve that Jason Goes to Hell vibe. For the straps, I bought elastic from Walmart and then painted it brown and then hot glued it to the mask. Okay, back to our prosthetic. Once your PAX paint has become tacky, you're going to want to powder the heck out of it, making sure to cover the entire surface to ensure that there is no tack left behind. Okay, so once your appliance is powdered, I am moving on to my alcohol activated paints. I am basically just saturating my brush with a lot of alcohol and using a thin wash of a pink all over the appliance, as you can see. The pink I am using is from the Encore SFX palette. Moving on to a smaller brush, I am just going to be mixing a little bit of the red and a little bit of the pink to achieve a darker pink, and going into all of those fine lines and crevices to make all of those details pop. In this next clip, the lighting did get darker, but you didn't miss anything, except I powdered the appliance again and used that same saturation technique to apply some pink and red washes over the lips and gums, using that same SFX Encore palette. I then sealed it all with a glossy lacquer to give it an overall wet effect. Then I just went in with some spirit gum to apply my acrylic teeth. I got a whole set of these off of Amazon for around $12. Next, I just went in with a light wash of blue and purple from my Necromania Skin Illustrator palette on a saturated small detail brush to make that under eye bag look even more sunken in. Then to color the teeth, I went in with washes of the Yellow Corpse and Vile Bile from the same Necromania palette. Alright, onto the eyeball. I already painted the eye itself using a white PAX paint. To achieve that red veiny look, I'm going back into my SFX Encore palette and using light washes of the Fresh Blood Prime Red and Dried Blood, going back and forth between the colors and using a small detail brush with varying saturation to achieve a 3D effect. So the more alcohol you have on your brush, the more translucent the color will be. The less alcohol you have on your brush, the more opaque the color will be. Don't be afraid to use your fingers to smudge out the color to achieve a more organic effect. For the iris and pupil part of the eye, I'm going in with the bruised red shade from the SFX palette and very carefully painting out the shape of the iris and pupil, making sure my brush is not completely saturated so the color doesn't bleed, but so the paint comes off more opaque as well. For the color of the iris, I'm going in with the Prime Yellow from the SFX palette, with slightly more alcohol on my brush so that the color will bleed into the bruised red shade, creating this golden brown with yellow tones to match my real eye color. The last step to conclude this Jason prosthetic is to go in with a glossy lacquer. I'm using it to go over the eye, the lips, the gums, and any parts of the mask that I want to look wet, since after all, he is coming out of a lake. Alright, onto the application. I'm going in with an adhesive, your choice, but I chose to go with spirit gum this time. Apply a thin layer to the area of your face where the prosthetic will be, and allow to get tacky. Then place him on, starting with the center and working your way out. To make the prosthetic blend into your face better, you are going to want to apply latex to the seam of the mask with a heavy hand, and then gradually blend out the edges with a lighter hand into your skin so that you're left with a smooth transition. In other words, there'll be more latex built up closer to the seam and less latex as you start blending it out into your skin. Then I am just going in with that same Cover FX foundation shade that matches my skin tone, and I'm using it to blend in those edges to the rest of my face. Then, to help it blend even more, I'm going in with the same alcohol activated paints that we used to paint the prosthetic to achieve an overall color match. And to apply those, I'm using a splatter technique, which helps break up the colors to give it a more realistic skin tone. And then the last step is to get that wet look, and to achieve this, we are going to be splattering some glycerin onto our face, and then also squeezing some into our hands and rubbing that all throughout our hair, which really just makes it look super wet, kind of greasy, like you just rose from the dead and you're gonna go kill some people. But that's going to conclude this Jason Voorhees inspired tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it. Just throw on your hockey mask and you're all set to go get your on. And remember, stay creepy, creeps.